Pupco Studios in Oklahoma City. You're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell, and we're brought to you by Papa John's. Go online to papajohns.com and check out their specials. It's all right there at papajohns.com. Time for 5 and 5. 5 topics, about a minute each for 5 minutes. Barry, let's get right to it with this one. Sports Illustrated stands by its reporting? Really?
Really, and not unexpected at all. I mean, that's what we do in journalism. People historically, for hundreds of years, have stood by their reporting no matter what comes to light later. So I'm not surprised at all by SI's press release. What's interesting to me is, OSU and the NCAA found nothing to corroborate the SI charges, and frankly, a good many of them were nothing you could corroborate. I mean, most of them were just people talking, saying boosters were in the locker room, handed me money after 39-point losses. Silly stories that didn't stand up to the light. I'm sure some things went on in Stillwater over the last 10 years, 12 years that were not pristine. But I think the preponderance of the evidence shows that Sports Illustrated sort of went over the top with this report. The journalism community sort of backed off and didn't even really support the this SI series when it came out. So Sports Illustrated sort of has itself in a corner. Can't really do much except stand by its reporting.
Yeah, and that's right. And there's lawsuits, and there'll probably be more lawsuits now that the OSU's outside investigator in lockstep with the NCAA has said that the SI reporting was fundamentally unfounded. They did find a couple small things that are NCAA violations, but nothing to the magnitude that was reported. So, I mean, I sort of get that legally, but at the same time, rarely, at least in my memory, do you see the NCAA walking side by side with an outside investigator that a school has brought in. They issue a joint statement. Barry, I mean, how often do we hear the NCAA as part of these things? It's rare. So for them to step out on a limb and say, this is what we've found, 100 interviews of people, 50,000 emails, more than a year, I think that they did some pretty good due diligence and found what they needed to find. All right, Barry, what about this one? So Sterling Shepard's injury. Photographer at fault? Really? I mean, Bob Stoops is saying this photographer who works for the Tulsa World, Mike Simmons, a guy we know, should have grabbed his stuff and got it out of the way. Is it his fault?
I actually agree with Stoops on this reason and on this issue, and here's the reason. For 40 years, for 50 years, I've watched football games, and here's how it works. When a football player's coming your way, you get out of the way. If you're running the chains, you get out of the way. If you're a sideline reporter, you get out of the way. If you're a coach or teammate, you get out of the way unless you want to catch the guy. So the idea that that there are things on the football field that just are going to be there and the players have to sort of navigate around them, that's not so. We make the pylons out of soft foam so they won't hurt the player at all. I think if you're going to have equipment on the sidelines, you got to be prepared to have it with you and get it out of the way. And I think I never really thought about it, but videographers, photographers, reporters, whoever we're on the sidelines. Sometimes whatever we got with us, we got to be able to get that stuff out of the way. We can't just leave it there and as sort of a landmine for players.
I do think that there's something to be said for that loose equipment, but I'll also say this: there are some other people at fault, and that's all of the riffraff, the bystanders. OU, OSU, I mean, every sideline has them. This is not just an OU problem. But there are people down there that don't need to be there. And that forces cameramen, photographers to areas of the field like that corner of the end zone. That's not really a desirable spot because if something happens in the other corner, you're far, far away. So the media folks who were there because other areas of the field were covered and people were standing in the way. So to me, yeah, you got to have that stuff so you can move quick, but I think OU and every other university out there could do itself a solid if they got extra people off the sidelines. All right, Barry, underwear endorsements? Really? First it was Joe Randall. He's arrested for trying to take underwear. Now he's a spokesman. And then we find out the other day Kevin Durant is endorsing underwear too. Really?
I feel like you're trying to draw me into some kind of discussion about underwear modeling, and I'm not going to be drawn in. So I think it's a little odd. I will say that. I can say that I have not ever, nor do I now, buy underwear based on who endorses it. But I guess somebody's got to do it. It's it actually, Joe Namath did the pantyhose commercials 40 years ago, when 50, ever how long ago it was, and that was a big deal in American society. I guess you gotta make waves somehow, but Kevin Durant, I can sort of see. Joe Randall's a little bit odd, but I'd prefer him. It's a good thing he didn't go shoplifting diamond rings. He'd be endorsing a jeweler today.
I actually kind of like the company that went to Joe Randall and said, "We want you to endorse our underwear after you tried to steal some from a department store." I just think that's fun. Now, Kevin Durant, who is obviously an endorsement mogul, he's got all sorts of deals out there. I read some of the quotes yesterday that he said about how much he was looking forward to this. It kind of weirded me out, I have to say. I mean,
he's just trying to keep up with Russell. Westbrook did it last year, underwear endorser.
Everybody go crazy. All right, Barry, our fun question of the week. As if underwear endorsements wasn't fun enough, what instrument would you play in marching band? Lots of talk about the OU band, the controversy, the director, da-da-da-da-da-da. So what instrument would you play?
You seem to be insinuating that I didn't play in the marching band.
This is something I didn't know.
I actually didn't play in the marching band, but the insinuation offends me. What instrument would I play if I could be in the marching band? Well, since we're in fantasy land, I'd play the saxophone because I think it's the coolest looking thing of all time. My good friend Burl Spencer, who knows more about music than everybody else put together, says it's the ultimate rock and roll instrument.
It's true.
So I would play the saxophone in fantasy land. In real life, you'd have to put me on the percussions, because I got a lot better beat than I had a musical ear.
Well, and to your point about the saxophone, my mom plays the saxophone still this day, and it's fantastic. I wish I would have learned to play the saxophone. Instead, I did march in the marching band in high school, and I played the flute and the piccolo, which, you know what? I mean, if we're in Fantasyland, I would probably do something fun like the tuba or, something like that, but that's Fantasyland. In reality, I saw how hard it was for those guys carrying the tuba. So I'm playing the piccolo. That was a technical decision.
Why is there a piccolo in a band? You can't hear it. How you ever hear a piccolo in a marching band?
Well, it's part of the conglomeration of sound out there, Barry. It's there, I promise.
What's a piccolo weigh? About 4 ounces?
Maybe. All right, Barry, one more. It's Thunder related. So Anthony Morrow starting. Really?
I'm not crazy about the idea. I'd start Perry Jones in Kevin Durant's place. If you start Anthony Morrow, then when Durant comes back, all kinds of pieces shuffle. All of a sudden, Morrow goes to the bench and becomes 6th, 7th, 8th man, whatever he fits in. Whoever's playing that role shuffles down. I think if you played Perry Jones for Kevin Durant, you're only replacing one slot. Durant in for Jones, and Jones goes to the back of the line, sort of where he's at now. So I'd get Anthony Morrow sort of going in the direction he's going to be needed come December, January, February, March, and that's coming off the bench as the sharpshooter.
Well, and I agree with that. I think this is probably a move that's based around trying to get more offense in the starting lineup, because as it looks right now, I would say Andre Roberson's probably your shooting guard, and he's obviously a defensive-minded Thabo Cephalosha-esque guy, so he's not going to give you a lot of points. And then if Kendrick Perkins is healthy and they're going the way of him, that leaves a lot of offensive prowess to fall to Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, and who's ever in that Durant spot, which if it's Perry Jones, maybe he could do it, but I think the move to start Morrow is probably to add to offense, at least you would hope so. I don't like it either, though. I mean, I do think it shuffles too much. It shuffles the starting lineup when Durant comes back. It shuffles the reserves when Durant comes back. Maybe they just think Morrow can do it, or I don't know. Maybe they're looking at this as a trial to see if Roberson's really the right. I don't know. I mean, who knows what the answer is, but I definitely think it feels like more of a temporary move than something that'll pay long-term dividends for this team. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.